One day, he received a phone call from his friend's wife telling him this information, and he was completely shocked. Can you imagine a friend of yours joining a group that is completely against your existence or your presence? I jumped in my car and sped to where Janet told me she and Frank were temporarily living. Frank wasn't there yet. I'm thinking about leaving him, Janet said tearfully. I tried to talk her out of that. Frank returned and surprised but happy to see me. I got right to the point. Why the hell are you joining the Ku Klux Klan? I demanded. I thought you and I were friends. Frank assured me that we were still friends and was under the impression that the Klan would not have a problem with his maintaining a friendship with me. He wanted to join the Klan for no other reason than a few black teenagers in the slum where he lived had thrown a glass bottle at Janet when they were walking down the street. They were not injured as the glass exploded a few feet from them. However, he said Janet was pretty shook up. That was when he decided, I'm going to join the Klan and get them to come and teach those blacks a lesson by kicking some ass. It took me the next 3 hours to convince Frank that joining an organization that has a problem with an entire race of people just to get a few asses kicked was definitely the wrong solution. I volunteered to go with him to these teenagers and talk with them on his behalf to try and resolve whatever problem they were having and quell Janet's fears. If it becomes necessary with these teenage hoodlums, I can and will do some ass kicking myself, I promise. I've had a negative interaction with every single race and every single religious group, including my own. And if I created a generalized belief over all these people, I would literally be sitting in a fucking cave, waving a stick around, talking to myself, because there would be nobody left. It would just be me in my mad hole of craziness, not talking to anyone ever for the rest of my life and just waiting to die in that cave. That's exactly what I would do. Shortly after, Daryl decided to begin his journey of meeting members of the Klan. The first person he met was the Grand Dragon, Roger Kelly. With the help of his assistant Mary, he was able to set up a meeting with him, but he concealed his race and set up an interview for a book that he was writing. As you can imagine, the moment that they laid eyes on each other in the motel room, it was a tense situation, more so from Roger Kelly's side. He thought he was being ambushed. But once they got to talking, they were able to exchange ideas. They got to the subject of separatism. He insisted that he wasn't a white supremacist, but a white separatist. Kelly soon began explaining that he was a white separatist as opposite to a white supremacist. The Grand Dragon instructed me in the difference between the two. I tried to remain silent and maintain a neutrality as best as I could. White supremacy means they think they're better than a certain race. A white separatist means that he wants to be separate from different races. The only way the different races can show their true potential is apart. The Bible preaches separation of the races. The Bible is the most segregated book in the world. I don't feel that any race is better than another. If I had to say one was better, then I would say the Chinese are the superior race. With shakily fingering his gun, I quickly reached into my bag, produced my Bible, and asked him to point out where this philosophy could be found. The Grand Dragon paged through the book and began quoting from Isaiah 13:14. And it should be as a chaste roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up, they shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. It appeared to me that Roger Kelly interpreted the last 3 words of this page to mean that different people had different lands, and they should not traverse into another land. If they do, they must return or flee back to their land of origination. Somehow, this only applies to the blacks and other minorities, not the whites who came here from Europe, I said, and he nodded. The conversation then turned to another topic, the Klan's militant opinions about homosexuality. When I asked Roger what he thought of the homosexuals' place in today's society, his words were more, but the response was the same one. The words were more, which was so interesting because every single one of these Klansmen talked about homosexuality, but they went in. I mean, they would say they would say the worst things, but when I think if a white person was interviewing them, they would have said way more things about black people, but because they were standing in front of a black man, they held back. They held back a lot. But because they knew that he was a homosexual man, they just went in. They went in and they said whatever they needed to say without any doubts. And when I started reading the book, I thought, that's one of the first things I thought about as I read about these people. And I thought, if you're so hateful and you're so big and bad, and not so big and bad, but I say it strong in your belief to go as far as joining an organization, why would you be scared of a black man? Just say what you need to say. This is an interview. Why shy away? Why go in on the homosexuals? But when you want to say things about black people, you hold yourself back. I thought that was interesting. Cowardly, but interesting.